Come here, kitty. Come here. Oh. Yeah, this is the kitty that hangs out around my house sometimes, and Mr. Millet. Mr. Millet gets. What are you doing? Come here so I can pet you, ding dong. Ow! You're a biter. I didn't know the Wachuchis were biters. But yeah, I'm gonna do something a little different today. I've got my GoPro on my charger stick. Are you gonna come on a walk with me? Come on a walk with me. Come on. I think Mr. Millet's still outside, actually. Somewhere. Getting into trouble. But yeah, I got my GoPro on the charger stick. I tried to play some disc golf today, but there were quite a few people. I did some practice, a couple of practice drives. I need some work. So I've been watching some YouTube videos because I really want to improve. I just don't want to go over there and be a fucking bonehead. I want to, when I actually get into like some sort of athletic stuff, I mean, you know, casual. I like to learn about as much as, you know, learn the proper techniques and everything. So I'll be working on it a little bit. It's opposite of what I'm used to. I'm throwing backhand, so you have to, it's weird, you have to be sideways. And when I played competitive table tennis back in the late 80s, when I trained outside the University of Toronto up there, and I was staying in Scarborough, Canada, I was 85% forehand player, so I was used to being on my right side and having to move a lot, constantly, you know, 15-20 feet back. So I was mainly a forehand topspin player. That's kind of the style that I played. I tried to cover like 90% of the table that way. But yeah, I took a lot of movement, and I had to do a lot of leg strength stuff to try to keep up with some of those guys. But in the end, I just couldn't compete. I got too late of a start. But I mean, I played in 9 years at the U.S. Open Team Championships. But I wasn't anywhere near in the top level. I was like in the C and D groups, our team. But we had a sponsor for a little bit. We had a sponsor, a guy from that owned a contracting company in Rockford, Illinois, and he sponsored us for a while because he was a big enthusiast about it. I'm gonna walk over here. And earlier today, I left a bowl of water and some cat treats for this cute little orange cat that I felt terrible about. I was walking from the disc golf course, taking the back route home, just trying to get some exercise. And I saw this cat, and I imagine he was abandoned. He, she, I don't know. I don't want to misgender the cat. But I'm going to check to see if, probably not. The cat saw me, and I tried to approach it, and it ran, because it was just laying out there in the field, and it ran into the bushes. So I'm going to stop by there and see if maybe, the cat took me up on the water bowl and the handful of treats that I laid out, the premium treats that I laid out for the kitty. But yeah, I got my GoPro on this little charger stick. This charger stick is worth its weight in gold. It's called a Ulanzi BG2, and you just charge it up, and it's got 4 little LED readings. And you can just plug it in. It's like a selfie stick. You just plug it in and it keeps your GoPro fairly charged. The battery I've got in here right now, if I didn't have this charger stick, and this is one of the problems with recording the disc golf, I got about 35 minutes of battery life. So I had to figure out a way. I can't have this charger stick on if I have my hat mount, if I have my head mount GoPro, I can't have fucking wire hanging down, and for one, the cable's not, charging cable's not long enough. So, but I thought I'd do something a little different. I might go on a bike ride later tonight, but it won't be a long one. My legs have kind of been cramping the last couple days after that bike ride I had the other night that I haven't posted yet. I recorded it, but I haven't posted. So let's go up here and see the kitty. But I wanted to talk some comic book stuff as well. Kind of the whole point. Lately I've been really getting back into comic books from 1977, 1978. A little bit 1976 as well. 1976 is when I started actually reading Marvel comic books. I think the first Marvel comic book I read was late, or sometime summer 1975. And I know which one it is. I think it was Fantastic Four number 88. This guy across the street, I might have talked about this before. Guy across the street had a beat up old copy of Fantastic Four 1988, I think from 1978 or 1968. Excuse me, 1968. It's either 1968 or 1969. I think it's 1968. I could be, don't quote me on that year. But that comes out about right. Yeah. Where the Fantastic Four were in Latveria, and they were basically, there was a revolt in Latveria against Dr. Doom, and they were helping take up the cause, and they were facing all of Dr. Doom's technological terrors, his Doom bots. And it's Jack Kirby. It's Jack Kirby right before he leaves Fantastic Four, but there's a lot of Ben Grimm doing It's Clobbering Time, and Johnny Storm with his flame on stuff, and I had never seen anything like that. I was like, oh, this is cool. I didn't know who these characters were. But yeah, there was an older kid. I'm like 6 years old. 6, 7 years old, and there's an older kid that lived across the street. I think he was like 16, and my mom used to pay him a couple bucks every once in a while. My mom used to go to these auctions on the outskirts of Muncie, Indiana when I was a really little kid, and sometimes in the summer she would be forced to take me because Dad's at work, and Leanne's, my sister Leanne, who's 7 years older than me, she was out doing her thing, so she's she's 13, 14 years old. She doesn't want to be stuck, or she might have been going with my mom to the auction as well. So my mom used to go and get antiques and stuff. That's where she got her she got a jukebox. She got an old Wurlitzer jukebox at that auction when I was a real little kid, I remember. But I went with her a few times. And this is before I discovered Marvel Comics, or I would have had something to do. But I'd be bored and I'd throw a fit, I'd throw a temper tantrum. And then she'd be miserable, and she'd have to leave the auction. Oh, it's hot today. I've already walked a few miles today before this. Here's some people over here. This is the roast beef place. Why is she wearing a mask? She's wearing a COVID mask outside. These people. Uh-oh, we've got some sort of animal here. That's a groundhog. That's a groundhog. This is where I saw this kitty. So this is actually private property. That's the museum, the Annie Oakley Museum right across the way there. So let's see. There's the bull. I can't tell if I'm recording or not. I think I am. So there is the bull. This is where I saw this kitty. This kitty was laying like right about here. Took off running in the woods here. So I left some treats on the ground, and I left some treats laying in the water bowl. I mean, it's the best I can do. I mean, but yeah, I think I scared the kitty off. Poor thing. I feel terrible. I really can't tell if this is recording. So, yeah, I mean, that's all I can do. I tried. I brought the treats over and I was shaking the treats like, come and get it. Yeah, I did that earlier, so it doesn't look like kitty's out. All right, well, that's all I can do. I feel terrible. I have a lot of sympathy for animals, not so much for human beings. Human beings are pieces of shit. They had their chance. Especially fucking these crazy leftist activist pieces of shit that are obsessed, get obsessed with shit. Anyway, damn, that got dark. Sorry. Well, anyway, what was I saying about comic books? Oh yeah. So my mom used to go to these auctions. I'd make her miserable. I'd be bored as shit out there because she'd be out there, 4 or 5 hours trying to get something. And she gets some cool stuff, like some old antique table or that cool jukebox, which I'm glad I grew up with that in the house. It was cool. So she, every once in a while, would pay. There's a kid named Danny that lived across the street. His parents owned a scuba diving shop. Oddly enough, they were like professional scuba divers. It was weird. Yeah, in Muncie, Indiana. I'm like, But he wasn't like a comic book enthusiast, but he liked them. We got some cops going on here. Maybe it's a shootout. Just don't aim it. It's okay to shoot. Oh no, it's an ambulance. It's okay to shoot cops. Here's the end of the bike route. It's okay to shoot at cops. Just don't aim. You know. That's the narrative. So anyway, yeah, there's the Garst Museum, the Annie Oakley Memorial, the National Annie Oakley Center. Right there. I've never been in there, even though I live a block away from it. I've never been in there. So I think I'm gonna go down here. This is kind of getting off the track. I need to go in there sometime, even though I don't give two fucks about Annie Oakley. Okay, the bitch can shoot. Okay, whatever. I don't know. I don't know anything about her. What are you doing? Recording the museum. This is high security. No parking here. Violators will be towed at owner's expense. No less. So anyway, yeah, this is the little Garst Museum, but they have like big fields. They do they shoot off cannons over here sometime. That's coming here in a couple weeks, I guess. I think it's Annie Oakley Days or something. It's small town Ohio, man. They got to grasp onto something, It's like, Why has it got to be like fucking Annie Oakley shit though, you know? Why can't it be something cool? Something I give a shit about. Anyway, it's all about me. So anyway, that kid Danny, my mom used to pay him a couple bucks, you know, to hang out with me. And he had some old style G.I. Joe action figures, like the big ones, not the real American Hero line. Yeah, it's way before that. This was 1975, you know, early 1976. But I remember when he brought over that stack of comic books, and I was sitting out in my front yard, which I hope to visit soon when I get my bike. I get my bike rack to connect to my car. I'm gonna go to Muncie. I'm gonna drive to Muncie, and I'm gonna ride around Muncie on my bike and record it, and go to some of the old. I'm gonna go to some of the old comic book shop things. I think one's still around. The one that I clerked at for a couple months in the summer of 1985, when I was 16 years old. Or was it 84? It might have been 1984. I was 15. Yeah. But I would run the register. I'd, you know, watch the store for him. And he'd give me some free comic books. You know, he didn't pay me. He paid me basically in comic books. So I was happy to do it. I could sit around and read comic books. And I did it for like, I was doing it like 2 days a week. Some weeks just one day, like on Saturday, a little bit on a Sunday, but I don't know who owns it now. It's called Bob's Comic Castle. So I was gonna run by there and see if that's still around. But it's gonna be like a trip back, you know, trip down memory lane, because I haven't been back there in, God, for so long. It's gonna be weird. But anyway, I was out in my front yard sitting in like a lawn chair thing, and he brought over a big stack of comic books, and I was playing, I think I was playing with my SWAT figures or something, you know. I was, you know, or my Bionic Man, my Major Steve Austin, Lee Majors, who was married to Farrah Fawcett for a little while. It's weird she died on the same day Michael Jackson did. That's kind of weird. Anyway, God, I can't keep on a subject, for crying out loud. But anyway, he brought over a stack of comic books, and I remember that issue of Fantastic Four. I think it's 88. It might be 86. I can't remember. It's like a 3 or 4 part saga, whether trapped in Latveria. It's really good. It's Kirby and Lee. Pretty sure it's Stan Lee still. Might be Roy Thomas, but I'm pretty sure it was Stan Lee, and I know it was Jack Kirby. This is right before Jack Kirby's exodus over to DC. So anyway, and then he had an Iron Man issue where he was fighting the Melter. I remember that, and I was like, Iron Man? Who is Iron Man? He was fighting, there was one issue where he was fighting Firebrand, which is a cool villain. And then he had one issue, and all these comic books were beat up. There were, you know, pieces missing out of the covers, and the covers were barely on. He didn't care, you know, about the condition. But he brought over some, so those were some of the first Marvel comics I ever read. But the point being, if I have a point, is that kind of catapulted me into getting serious about it. So 1977, I actually had my mom buy my first, I started buying monthly comics in 1976. My mom did. But 77, 78 really got me going. And those were two pivotal years in comic books, because overall comic book sales were down. I mean, 77, early 77, 76, just because people just didn't have it. The economy wasn't so great, and so there was some bad shit going on. And I know my mom used to complain, because she's like, I shouldn't be spending money on these comic books. I'm like, Mom, they're 30 cents, you know. But back then, that's like $3, you know, and I'm not exaggerating. Let's go back. Let's go around the park here. There's my house down there. I can see my house. That's that government building right there. They have like the juvenile court there, and it's also like a health center. That's where I was going to get the vaccine. When Whirlpool was going to give me $1,000 to get the vaccine, that's where I was scheduled to get it. And I ended up, I've only been in there one time, and that was to schedule getting the vaccine. I'm so glad I didn't do that. I quit Whirlpool before I quit Whirlpool the week before I was scheduled to get that vaccine to get my $1,000. I don't need $1,000 that bad, you know? But I mean, if they were going to give me $1,000, I was going to take it. Originally, their offer was $200. There's some ducks over there. Anyway, God, stay on the goddamn subject. Okay, comic books. Okay, focus on comic books. How about turn my angle there? Shit. So the point is, I've been reading a lot of 1977, 1978 comic books, and I mean, the Avengers and Spider-Man were my two go-tos. That was the first thing I grabbed off the spinner rack. Always Amazing Spider-Man. Secondary was Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man, which started in 1976. And I ended up collecting most of them. I had most every one. But it was kind of the generic version. Even though they had some really cool storylines, they didn't have the main. They really didn't want it competing for the sales of Amazing Spider-Man, which was basically their best-selling book. But this is until Star Wars came, of course. And Star Wars, that's kind of my point. Star Wars kind of changed the game. Star Wars kind of saved comic books. And you might think, oh no, that's silly, but it's actually true. The two licensed stuff that the two big licensed stuff that Marvel had was Conan and then Star Wars in '77. And but in 1978, after Howard Chaykin did his original run where it covered the movie, and then they had to come up with their own stories. There's some really good stories. If you're ever really into Star Wars, check out the Marvel comic book Star Wars from 1978 on. It's really good until The Empire Strikes Back. After The Empire Strikes Back, the comic book took a really big dive in quality. Like Howard Chaykin, which was a fan favorite, he left because he really didn't want to do Star Wars. He kind of thought that kind of stuff was beneath him a little bit, you know. I mean, I guess he was happy to do the work, but I saw an interview where he doesn't like to talk about Star Wars, you know. But that's kind of what he's known for besides American Flag. He's done other stuff too, but they kind of shift around artists. I know Carmine Infantino, I think, had the book for a little bit. Speaking of Carmine Infantino, and for the people that don't know who that is, he's kind of a famous Silver Age comic book artist, best known for his work on Silver Age Flash from the 60s. Late 50s, early, all throughout the 60s. He even did some Flash in the 70s. That's what he's best known for. But he also became editor-in-chief at DC Comics in, I think, 1970. Don't quote me on that, but around that, it's a ballpark. He was, and he wasn't well liked. But DC had a strict policy of not giving the artwork back to their artist. And Marvel was kind of trying to change that. But there's an interesting story because I've been reading, I've been kind of revisiting those 1977, the 1975 to 1978 X-Men, where it was a big transition period. But how does Carmine Infantino play into all that? Well, this is stuff I've read when I was a teenager in comic book magazines, and then when I was a little older, I still books all in the editorial pages and all the comic book fan magazines. They would have articles about a lot of the creators, which was just as interesting to me as the comic books themselves, basically. I like to know what was going on behind the scenes at the companies. So Carmine Infantino is indirectly responsible, believe it or not, for the X-Men surviving. And perhaps all this stuff that you're seeing now, that the X-Men was the catalyst for the MCU and all this stuff, because it was the X-Men movie that kind of got people thinking that comic book movie material could be viable again, because they weren't ready for that. They thought it was going to be, they didn't want to put any money into it. Famously, Hugh Jackman said that his agent told him not to mention he was doing a comic book related movie because it might hurt his career. Mostly thanks to the George Clooney Batman and Robin and all the Joel Schumacher Batman and Robin, or this Batman movie stuff in general that kind of went back to the campy shit, kind of the more Adam West type shit that did no favors, did absolutely no favors for the for DC comic industry. Here's some disc golfers right there. Yeah, when I came over here, there was a couple groups of people that were getting out of their cars and ready to play. So here's two more playing. So I might get up one day this week. I'm going to get up really early and get over there and play some chick and some dude here playing. And there's some people. Yeah, there was quite a few people out here fishing too. So. Oh, that breeze kind of feels good. It's pretty hot. It's not quite 90, but it feels like it. It's pretty sticky. Some people fish. I don't know if there's any fish in there. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I really don't know if there's any. Really don't know if there's fish in there. But anyway, God, this is gonna be terrible to listen to because I'm all over the place. So my premise statement of Carmine Infantino is indirectly related to the X-Men surviving. Well, in the early 70s, there was a guy who you've probably heard of if you know anything about X-Men. There's an artist named Dave Cockrum. Now, the X-Men were going to be canceled. That's pretty much everybody knows that. The X-Men weren't a good book. They had like a core following, but sales-wise, it was in the bottom half. They must be playing 18. He's not very good. I can outdrive him. He's trying to use a forehand. I wish I had somebody to play with. God damn it. Thug Hater's gimpy ass won't come out to. I mean, it is almost a 4-hour drive. Not quite, but I'm gonna have to pay his gas. I'll have to pay for his gas someday because he claims he's so goddamn broke. Yeah, right. Anyway, comic books. God damn it. I swear I have ADHD or whatever they call that shit. I can't stay on a topic. So anyway, early 70s, DC hired Dave Cockrum to draw Legion of Superheroes. It was Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes at that time. Now in the 80s, that book would go on to be really one of their best sellers, popular, very popular. Artist named Keith Giffen took over, and he was kind of a cross between John Byrne, Jack Kirby type, really good artist. And he really kind of embodied the spirit of Jack Kirby, but he gave it kind of more of a modern flair. So Dave Cockrum was doing Legion of Superheroes, and over at Marvel, the X-Men were being canceled. The book had gone bi-monthly. They had stopped doing original stories. They tried to bring Neil Adams on. They tried to give the X-Men guys the original team. They stuck with the original team too long. That original team is not that interesting. You've got the brooding leader, Cyclops, who has the romantic interest of Marvel Girl. Yeah, they called her Marvel Girl back then. Jean Grey. You had the immature teenager, Iceman, and then you had the Beast, you had Angel. Just wasn't really interesting. They all had the same costumes, Professor X. They never really had a theme. The theme was, why are we trying to save humanity why are we trying to save humanity that hates us from being taken over by the mutants that just want to conquer them, Magneto and the Brotherhood. But they really got off track with that. If they would have stuck with that theme and had a little bit more mature, developed the characters more, I think it would have gone over a little better. But the characters seemed kind of wooden. They weren't fleshed out very well. Roy Thomas took over writing the book, and they tried to bring in Neil Adams, who, Neil Adams was one of the all-time greats. But not even he could save that book. It just needed a fresh take. Well, Marvel was owned at the time by a company called Cadence Magazine Management or something like that. It was Cadence Incorporated. And they wanted to reboot the X-Men. Not really reboot the X-Men. They just kind of wanted to do they wanted to raise sales internationally. They said, we don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to try to raise sales internationally. And they kind of charged the Marvel bullpen with, okay, get that done. See what you can do with that. So the guy named Len Wein, who's famous for creating Wolverine. Let me backtrack just a second about Dave Cockrum, because he plays the biggest role in this. He was drawing a really popular issue, like a very hyped up issue of Legion of Superheroes. It was, the fans were waiting on it. There's two characters in the Legion of Superheroes. One is called Bouncing Boy and one was called Duo Damsel. And the big event for Legion of Superheroes, I believe this is 1973, they were getting married. And it was like a big, they made a big deal over it. The two characters were getting married. This big romance that was in the book. So they were going to marry the characters. And Dave Cockrum did this awesome big 2-page splash page thing of the wedding. Of the wedding scene. And had all the characters, spread out. Well, Dave Cockrum wanted that original artwork back. So he went to the editor, the book editor, not the editor-in-chief, who was Carmine Infantino. And he said, hey, you think I can get those pages back? He goes, yeah, I don't see that's going to be a problem. It's like, okay. So what happened was, the next day, he went in to get his artwork, and Carmine Infantino said, we don't do that. The editor-in-chief said, no, you can't have your original artwork back. And Dave Cockrum was like, You're kidding me. This is the only request I've ever made to get my original artwork back. You can't fulfill this one request. And he's like, nope, absolutely not. We do not do that stuff. So what had happened is basically Dave Cochran said, okay, well, I'm out of here, I quit. And this is his exact words quoted in the interview was, see ya, I'm out of here. So Dave Cochran quits and goes over to Marvel. Well, Marvel doesn't really have any books for him. They're canceling the X-Men. So he starts doing covers. He's like, well, we can give you some cover work, but we don't have like a regular book. Well, this is where they were trying to get that international team. Said, let's make an international team and let's get an artist. They assigned a writer to it, and that ended up changing to Lynn Wein. Lynn Wein, who eventually goes on to be editor-in-chief for like a year at Marvel. But Lynn Wein takes over, said we're gonna reboot the X-Men. We're gonna do international team with a brand new cast of characters from all around, but we got to make these characters. Well, enter Dave Cochran, who was known for having a huge portfolio. Whoa, missing cat. That's that cat. That's the cat I saw. You're kidding me. That's the cat that you're shitting me. That's the cat I saw over by the thing. In a new location and slipped out. If you have, I would love to come home to my parents who raised me since 4 weeks old. My parents miss me dearly. They're offering a reward for my safe return. No questions asked. Please call or text. I swear that's the cat. Oh my God. Crazy. Now I'm on a mission. Anyway, back to comic books. So they said, hey, we got an opportunity for you, for Dave Cochran. By this time it's mid 1974, and Lynn Wein had just created the Wolverine character, and they put him in the Hulk, and they made him Canadian. Originally he was going to be like a teenager, but then they said, let's go the opposite way. Let's make him old. I'm gonna have to text those people about that cat. Hello.
Hello.
The Martha Binkert Memorial Bridge. So anyway, yeah, the original idea for Wolverine was that he was going to be like a teenager, like a hothead teenager, and his claws were going to be part of the gloves. The claws weren't going to actually come out from him. So they changed that. They said, hey, Lynn Wein was like, or Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont's the one that said, well, let's make him older. But I'm getting off track again. I'm going to go down there and see if I can't find that cat. So what had happened was, you've got the birth of Giant Size X-Men #1. Now, they had no intention of making X-Men a monthly book. What they were going to do is do 4 giant size issues a year. And they already had the plot and some of the art for Giant Size X-Men #2. Now, Giant Size X-Men #1 is a very valuable book. It's from 1975. It's Lynn Wein and Dave Cochran introducing all those new characters. And the only original character that stuck around initially was Cyclops. And Professor X, of course. And then later Jean Grey would, but they moved the Iceman and Angel over to the Champions, a team, a West Coast Avengers type team called the Champions, with Hercules and Black Widow and Ghost Rider, Angel and Iceman, because they just didn't want to dump the characters. But that's how you get Angel and Iceman in the Champions, which came out late 1975 originally. And then John Byrne ended up doing some of the, John Byrne, Chris Claremont ended up doing some of the stories and the artwork. Yeah, this cat's up here. Or he was, that's where I saw him. But yeah, the original Giant Size X-Men was supposed to be just 4 issues a year, because Dave Cockrum is a notoriously slow artist. And what happened was they got some buzz over that Giant Size X-Men. The new characters really caught on. Now, where'd these new characters come from? Well, that's Dave Cockrum. Dave Cockrum invented all those new characters. He already had Nightcrawler. He had already created Nightcrawler. Almost exactly what the Nightcrawler is now. He had, but the original Nightcrawler was going to be a team called the Outsiders, which was going to be a spin-off of the Legion of Superheroes. This is where you get Storm. Storm was originally a male character called Tempest. And then they had a female character called Black Cat, which is nothing to do with the Marv Wolfman Spider-Man Black Cat. This is before that. To be continued here. How you doing? I swear that cat I saw back here was the cat on that poster. There he is. There he is. All right. I don't know if that's the right. Let's not scare him off. Do I have my phone with me? I gotta go home and text. There's the kitty. Now I wish I would have, oh, damn, I don't know that number. I mean, I'm not 100% sure it's the same cat, but it sure looks like it. Water Street is very close to here. I gotta go back to that sign. No, kitty, it's okay. You stay right there. Stay right there, kitty. What is this siren going off? Stay right there, buddy. I'm going back to that sign and getting that number. That sign's right up here. It's about 4 minutes. I can finish my story. This damn siren is messing up this siren in the background. So anyway, Dave Cockrum came up with all those characters. He already had Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was supposed to be like a demon that was banished to Earth. And he had to redeem himself. But this was all going to be in DC. And he had all these characters laid out. Now, I think they made Colossus just for the X-Men. But yeah, the original Storm was male, weather control. So what they did was they had a shapeshifter named Black Cat, and what they did was they took the look of the Black Cat character, which turned out to be Storm, and melded it with the powers of that male weather wizard, Tempest. And these were all supposed to be DC. This is ridiculous. These were all supposed to be DC characters. So what would happen if Carmine Infantino would have just given Dave Cockrum that page of artwork back? You probably would have never gotten the X-Men, because Dave Cockrum was the leading, the driving force of that reboot of the X-Men. Yeah, I'm gonna call these people. Water Street's just like 2 blocks away from here. So hopefully they didn't get their kitty back. Hopefully that cat stays by that water bowl. And hopefully it's the right cat. So, but it's kind of weird to think that if they would have just given Dave Cockrum his artwork back, the X-Men as we know it might have never existed. Well, I'm sure it wouldn't have existed, because nobody wanted to take that book. Now, what happened was Len Wein was editor-in-chief, and he was writing the X-Men. So Chris Claremont, who was an up-and-coming young writer for Marvel, who was pretty much he would be willing to take anything. He said, because people weren't lining up at Marvel to take X-Men, because they knew the book was doomed. And Chris Claremont was like, I'll take it. I can't remember where that sign is now. I think it's down here. Shit. But yeah, he was like, I'll take it. Give it to me. And the rest is history. And he was on the book almost 20 years. And then the book started gaining a lot of buzz after the giant size X-Men, because people wanted to know more about those new characters. And it gained momentum. And momentum. Elect the clown, expect the circus. I love it. Lock her up, FJB. Hey, that's funny. I love it. Fuck Joe Biden. Anyway, elect the clown, expect the circus. Yeah, let's go call these people. There's a cop, maybe he'll help. Yeah, right. He'll probably take me to jail. I'm just kidding. The cops around here are good. I'm just joking. I'm just going along with. Now, I don't know if that's the cat or not, but I think it is. Missing from East Water Street. Let's call. Let's call here. Huh? Yes, I saw your sign about your missing cat, and I think I've seen it. I put a bowl of water and some treats out over by Maid-Right, back there by that bike path. And I think that's your cat, because he was sitting there drinking out of the bowl. I got some video on my GoPro of the cat, so I don't know if it's your cat or not, but I was just letting you know. So I'll try to call you back sometime. Well, I left a message. I didn't leave my return. I didn't, excuse me. I didn't leave my return phone number because I just didn't want to, but wish they would have had their address. The things I do on my day off. This is worthy shit though, you know. Maybe I can redeem some of my life for being such a piece of shit. Yeah, there you go. Sounds good. What do you say?
You work for a radio station or something?
No, they have a sign about a missing cat down there, and I think I saw the cat.
Oh, so you're looking for...
Yeah, and I gave the cat a bowl of water, and I was trying to record the
Oh, okay.
thing, and I left him a message.
Okay.
I saw that sign up, and I said, I saw that cat earlier today. So
What color is it?
it's orange.
Yeah, I've seen it around. It's somebody's cat.
Yeah, they put up a sign.
Did you try to get it? Are you trying to...
It wouldn't let me. It wouldn't let me. It ran, but I put some treats out for it earlier today.
Call and tell them to come to meet you where it's at. You know it?
Do what?
Did you call the people and tell them to meet you there?
I left a message. They weren't home.
Oh.
So I'll try to call them back later. But yeah, earlier today I left a bowl of water for it, and then I saw that sign. I was like, wait a second. I seen that cat. So it was kind of coincidence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have a good 4th of July.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Nice people. Nice people around here, man. She wished me a nice... She asked me if I worked for a radio station. I was like, well, but, you know, I should. I'm an investigative... I'm an investigative cat finder. I think I missed my calling in life, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go down Water Street. You know what? I'm gonna go down Water Street and see if they've got a sign up down Water Street. Do I work for a radio station? Must be my lovely voice. Hello. Can't remember what's Water Street. I don't think this is Water Street. What a weird comic book commentary today, mixed in with cat drama. I'm getting some good exercise though. Oh, it's getting hot. I like it. Might put in 10 miles of walking today. Some days I like walking more than riding. I prefer riding normally, but... Do you work for a radio station? Yeah, I'm reporting on people that have fucked Joe Biden on their windshields like you do. Yeah, I've got AOC on the line here. They're sending a drone. They're sending a drone out to your house right now. Raven to Horsemouth. Yeah, come in. Yeah, we found one. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Oh, life's a garden, dig it, you know. I hope they... She said she saw that cat around. Yeah, lying. You didn't see that cat. I think this turns into Water Street. I could be wrong. They said they're gonna give her a reward. I'm like, okay, I want giant size X-Men. I want giant size X-Men #1 as my reward, since I've been talking about it. But anyway, so Chris Claremont takes over for Lynn Wein, because Lynn Wein wants to go back to full-time writing, and they pretty much give him everything. Lynn Wein takes over. I mean, that dude was busy. Lynn Wein takes over Spider-Man. They gave him all the main books. Not all the main books, but a lot of them. Let's see what Lynn Wein was doing after Chris Claremont took over the writing, full-time writing duties, and the X-Men went monthly. Because then Dave Cockrum couldn't make the deadlines. So they brought John Byrne in. And John Byrne, they were like, you've got a week to get this. Or John Byrne was quoted in an interview. Yeah, and it's John Byrne. He's gonna let you know how good he is, you know. It's always false modesty from John Byrne. John Byrne said, they told him, he goes, can you do this in 2 weeks? Because you're taking over. He goes, yeah, I'll have a week off then. Meaning that he can get the book done in a week. John Byrne could knock out. Not only was he good, he was fast. So, yeah, he got a lot of work. Deservedly so. Dave Cockrum could not make the monthly deadline. And this is the time where Jim Shooter was about ready to take over editor-in-chief at Marvel. And that was the big emphasis, was you guys, I mean, they gave bonuses for consecutive runs. Like if a creative team would do 6 issues, they would get a pay bonus, but you couldn't be late. That was the incentive. Because if you had a fill-in, for one, a bunch of fill-ins on a book, not making deadlines is death to a book. Absolute death. You lose readership big time. But that was never a problem for John Byrne. You know, he was also doing that short run on Captain America. He was doing Marvel Team Up. He was doing some awesome Marvel Team Up with Chris Claremont. Then they took over X-Men monthly. So Lynn Wein was given Amazing Spider-Man. He was also doing the Hulk. Let's see, what else was Lynn Wein doing? That's one of my favorite Hulk runs. Lynn Wein and Sal Buscema from like 1977, 1978. It's some really classic Hulk where he fights like Crusher Creel and the Locust, and they have some pretty good stories. And Lynn Wein was it's also one of my favorite runs of Amazing Spider-Man, because he was with Ross Andru, who is my favorite Spider-Man artist of all time. I mean, I would say John Byrne is my favorite Spider-Man artist of all time, but John Byrne never did like a run of the main Spider-Man books. Is this Water Street? This is not Water Street. This is Memorial. Shit. Where the fuck is Water Street? People are still playing disc golf. I think I can hang with those guys, but there was a couple groups of some pretty good players earlier that, I don't know. Let's go down here, because I think this turns into Water Street, but I could be wrong. I have to see. But yeah, Lynn Wein was given, he did something else. He was doing like he was doing like 4 books monthly, and they were all like, I can't remember the other 2. I know Hulk and Spider-Man, and he did that he had extended runs then, but that's what he gave up the X-Men to do that. And Chris Claremont took over, and then they brought John Byrne in, and the rest is history. And that started, John Byrne came in 1978, the same time they were doing the Marvel Team Up. And right around then, I believe early 1978 is when X-Men, they started advertising now monthly. And the rest is history. But, like I was saying earlier, what would have happened if what would have happened if Carmine Infantino would have just given that page of artwork back to Dave Cockrum? That's a what if story right there. I think that's Water Street. Yeah, okay. Let's get back. I wish they would have given their address. I'd feel stupid if they had found their cat and the cat I'm talking about wasn't their cat. Yeah, East Water Street. So I was on the right street earlier. Or I think maybe this turns into Water Street, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's a little comic book, X-Men history for kind of relevant to 1978. It's more relevant for 1975 actually, but what are you gonna do? But some of the greatness out of 1977, 1978 was really sparked by the success of Star Wars and the Star Wars comic book. That Star Wars comic book was everywhere. Trying to get a clue of maybe where these people live. I don't know. The case of the missing kitty. I'm just glad that cat found that water bowl. That makes me happy. Hope he likes those premium ass treats. Chubbles sure does. Goddamn, they're expensive as hell. That shit's more expensive than goddamn cocaine, man. Fuck. Should be smuggling that shit into the country. I bet the house is further down there. I don't think that cat would have strayed this far. But I don't know. I'm just glad that cat found that water bowl. I feel like a superhero. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway. So yeah, that kind of wraps up my little comic book commentary. I mean, I could continue talking about the greatness of some of the books that came out in 1978. Marvel Team Up was awesome. Some of the best Marvel team ups. It's Byrne and Claremont. I mean, come on. Chris Claremont, ironically enough, Chris Claremont was known for having like big long story plots and that covered years, like the Hellfire Club stuff. But he could also do the quick shot, one and done, 2-story. His Marvel Team Up was always like 2 issues and done. Every once in a while they'd have a 3-parter, but it was a different team up character every month. And 1978 was John Byrne and Chris Claremont in their heyday of Marvel Team Up, and but sadly they left that to do monthly X-Men, which that's kind of what spurred me to start reading the X-Men, because my very first time of seeing the X-Men was a Captain America issue back in like 1974. It was Steve Englehart. Steve Englehart was writing it, and I think it was Sal Buscema. Sal Buscema was drawing it, and they had like a two-parter where Cap kind of encounters the X-Men, and I didn't know who those characters were. I wasn't familiar with those characters, and I had read that comic book. I think I had read that comic book in 1976 or 1977. It's one of my first Captain Americas I ever read. Can't remember the number. I think it was like Captain America 140, maybe? Something along those lines. Here's the disc golf course. Let's just cut through. Oh, I gotta know what happened to that cat. I gotta get that cat. It's frustrating. I wish they would give the address, their house address, because I could knock on their door. Yeah. I'll call them again later. I'll call them later tonight and say, hey. Yeah, but this is that one hole of there's the inner tube somebody left. But you can just get right down in the river there. Plop on an inner tube and just float. I might do that someday. Boy, I better make sure my GoPro's waterproof that day. But yeah, that Captain America issue was the first time I had ever seen those characters. I wasn't familiar with those characters. But I started getting X-Men off the spinner rack in 1978. And then in 1979, I really started getting into X-Men. They started getting my attention just as much as the Avengers. Like the X-Men and the Avengers in 1979 were like the first two. And there's some, going back to 1978, there's some awesome Avengers runs. 78, Jim Shooter was writing the Avengers, and they had occasional fill-in, but the art duties were being flip-flopped between John Byrne and George Perez, more so George Perez. John Byrne just did a couple issues here and there, but when you have George Perez doing the artwork on your book, and your fill-in is John Byrne, yeah, you're gonna sell some books. So that's what happened. And then I think Roger Stern took over writing after Jim Shooter became editor-in-chief. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on some of that stuff. 1978, great year for comic books. Sure beats this garbage they're churning out today, boy. I mean, the creativity and just the ability to tell a real comic book story with art and story-wise. Yeah, the books today are digital and slick. The coloring is, digital coloring, and it's slick looking. But I'm sorry. It's all flair and no substance, because man, oh man, has the actual content that's important just gone down the shitter. And boy, it has. Because yeah, I get it that the stories now are more sophisticated, and well, in some cases, and they're darker, and that's the thing. It's more mature. It's more mature, and it's more mainstream now. Back then, it was geared a little more for a younger reader, just a little, but it was still mature, but it wasn't the kind of maturity we're talking about now, where they just don't know how to produce an entertaining comic book. You know, you've got guys, you go 4 issues without any kind of conflict or anything. It's just you know, how you doing? It's just basically the writers are just self-projecting their own crap into the comic, you know, their own agenda, and you know, and the story suffers. I mean, there's no focal point to any of the stories. I mean, it doesn't even seem like there's any kind of high stakes to it at all. And back then, there was an actual story to be told. There was an ongoing character development. Now it's just self-insert agendas, word balloons that mean nothing, dialogue that fucking means, you know, pointless dialogue. The only thing the dialogue means is to make the guy writing it, or the girl, in this case the girl or the diversity hire writing it, feel like they've done something, instead of actually trying to tell a story and entertain the reader. It's really sad. It's a sad state of affairs. That's why I keep going back to the classic days. This is why they won't be making the movies. They won't be making the movies about the garbage that they're churning out today. They're still making the movies. They're basing the movies on the classic stuff. You know, they're referencing the 70s, 80s, in some cases early 90s. But so anyway, I'm on the way home. I'm gonna wrap it up here. I don't know how long I've been yapping. It's probably been over an hour, close to it. What time is it? Yeah, it's close to an hour. I'm gonna go check on that cat again here in a little bit. I'll bring him some more shit. Poor thing. That's gonna be bugging me all day. So anyway, I'm gonna sign off there. I'm just about 200 yards from my house up here. So, all right, guys. Thanks for listening and suffering through my my episode of cat drama, comic book rant, a little bit of comic book history thrown in there. Very little. So anyway, I'll see you guys.